You walk out to your tomato plants and they look incredible. Big dark green leaves, thick, strong stems, bushes so full you can barely see through them, and almost no tomatoes. Maybe a few flowers here and there, but they yellow up and drop right off before a single fruit sets. Now, here's the part almost nobody realizes. That beautiful, leafy, healthy looking plant isn't healthy in the way you want. It's stuck. And there's one drop of a certain liquid that flips it out of growing leaves and into pumping out fruit, not more feeding. The opposite of what you'd guess. Stick with me, and I'll show you exactly what it is and how to use it. So, how does someone end up with a jungle of tomato leaves and no harvest to show for it? I've grown tomatoes in my backyard for a long time, and I made this exact mistake for years. Big plants, tiny yield. I read every label, tried every trick, and kept feeding the poor thing, thinking more food meant more tomatoes. It doesn't. Once I figured out what was really going on down in that soil, my plants changed completely. And the fix costs almost nothing. Here's what's happening. A tomato plant has two jobs it can focus on. It can grow, meaning leaves, stems, and roots, or it can reproduce, meaning flowers and fruit. It can't pour everything into both at the same time. What decides where all that energy goes is mostly what you're feeding it. Nitrogen is the nutrient that drives green, leafy growth. When there's a lot of nitrogen in the soil, the plant reads that as a signal to keep growing bigger and taller. Why would it bother making fruit when conditions are that good for just spreading out? So it builds a mansion of leaves and forgets all about the tomatoes. Now think about that for a second. Every bag of lush green lawn feed, every scoop of fresh manure, every all-purpose fertilizer heavy on that first number, you've been pouring nitrogen into the bed. And the plant took the hint. The two nutrients that actually push a tomato into making flowers and setting fruit are phosphorus and potassium. Phosphorus helps the plant form flowers and strong roots. Potassium is the big one for fruit. It helps those flowers turn into tomatoes, and it helps them fill out, ripen, and taste like something. A plant swimming in nitrogen but short on potassium will grow forever, and fruit never. The easiest way to picture it, nitrogen builds the factory. Potassium runs the assembly line. You can build the biggest factory in the county, but if the line never switches on, you don't ship a single tomato. So before we get to the fix, let me show you how to spot a plant that's stuck in leaf mode, because you might be looking right at one. First sign is the leaves themselves. They're a deep, dark green, thick, and a little leathery, and there are tons of them. Second sign is the stem. It's fat and strong, sometimes as thick as your thumb. Third sign, and this is the one everyone misses, is the flowers. You either get very few, or you get flowers that open up bright yellow and then dry out and drop off without ever forming a tomato behind them. That's the plant telling you it's growing, not fruiting. If you're seeing thick, dark, bushy growth and flowers that won't hold, your plant is in leaf mode. Good news is, that's fixable, and it's fixable fast. So let's get to it. The one drop that flips the switch is a concentrated liquid feed that's low in nitrogen and rich in potassium. The one I reach for is liquid kelp, sometimes sold as liquid seaweed. It comes as a dark, thick concentrate in a bottle, and it's loaded with potassium and trace minerals while being very low on nitrogen. That combination is exactly what tells a tomato plant to stop showing off and start setting fruit. A tomato-specific liquid feed works the same way, and I'll give you a free homemade version in a minute. But the reason I love the kelp is that it's gentle. You can't really burn your plants with it, and a little goes a long way. One capful diluted right changes the whole direction of the plant. Before I show you the exact way to mix and pour it, I want to tell you where this whole approach really comes from, because it goes a lot deeper than one bottle of kelp. Everything I'm sharing today, the feeding, the timing, the pruning, it all lives inside a bigger system I put together after years of trial and error in my own beds. I wrote it all down in a guide called the 30-Day Maximum Yield Protocol. It's 115 pages, and it's built for the home gardener who wants to grow a lot more food out of the same little patch of ground without buying more space and without expensive equipment. It walks you through the soil biology so you understand what's actually feeding your plants, the pruning that pushes energy into fruit instead of leaves, companion planting, and a succession schedule so your beds never sit empty. And for every single method, it explains the why, not just the what, so you're never guessing again. It's the exact playbook that turned my leafy, low yield plants into the heaviest harvests I've ever pulled. If that's the direction you want to go, you can grab it for $17. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now or click the link in the description below. I'll leave that code up for a moment so you've got time. It genuinely changed how my garden performs, and I think it'll do the same for yours. All right, back to the plant. Here's exactly how you apply that liquid kelp so it works. Take a full watering can, somewhere around 2 gallons, add 1 tablespoon of the kelp, concentrate and stir it in. That's it. You want it diluted and gentle, not strong. Then pour it slowly at the base of the plant, right onto the soil around the stem, not up on the leaves. You're feeding the roots because that's where the plant drinks. Do this once a week, from the moment you see the first flowers, all the way through the season while fruit is forming and filling out. Morning is best when the soil can soak it in before the heat of the day. Don't be tempted to double the dose thinking you'll double the results. You won't. You'll just stress the plant. Steady and consistent beats strong and occasional every time. Now, the feed only does half the job. The other half is shutting off the nitrogen supply that got you into this mess. So while you're pouring on the potassium, stop pouring on the nitrogen. Put away any high nitrogen lawn or all-purpose fertilizer, the ones with a big first number. Keep fresh manure away from your tomato bed because it's loaded with nitrogen and it'll undo everything. Same goes for grabbing a handful of that green weed and feed lawn product and tossing it near your vegetables. I've watched people feed and wonder why their plant just gets bushier. It's because they're feeding the leaves the whole time. Cut the nitrogen, add the potassium, and you've turned the plant around from both sides at once. If you'd rather not buy anything at all, you can make your own potassium feed for free, and it works just as well. The classic is comfrey. If you grow a comfrey plant, you cut the leaves, pack them in a bucket with a little water, and let them rot down for a few weeks into a dark, strong liquid that's packed with potassium. It smells terrible, I'll be honest with you, but your tomatoes love it. Dilute it heavily, about 10-to-1 with water until it looks like weak tea, and pour it at the base same as the kelp. Banana peels are another one. Chop them up and bury them near the roots, or soak them in water for a few days and use that water. Wood ash from a clean fire, just a light sprinkle worked into the soil, adds potassium too. Any of these will nudge your plant toward fruit. Pick whichever you've already got on hand. Now, I need to clear something up because you've probably seen 100 videos telling you to dump Epsom salt on your tomatoes to make them explode with fruit. I'm going to give it to you straight. Epsom salt is magnesium. Magnesium helps the plant make chlorophyll and take up other nutrients, and it can genuinely help if your soil is short on it. But it is not a magic fruiting switch, and it will not fix a nitrogen problem. If your plant has yellowing between the veins on the older leaves, that's a real magnesium shortage, and a light dose of Epsom salt dissolved in water can help. If your plant is dark green and leafy, Epsom salt does basically nothing for your fruit problem. So use it when the plant actually tells you it needs magnesium and skip it the rest of the time. I'd rather tell you the truth than sell you a miracle. Here's another move that costs you nothing but a few minutes with your fingers. Prune the plant to redirect energy. Tomato plants throw out little shoots in the joint where a branch meets the main stem. Those are called suckers, and if you let them all grow, each one becomes another leafy branch, demanding food. Pinch them out while they're small, and all that energy goes into the fruit you already have, instead of building more mansion. Also, strip off the lower leaves near the ground, the older ones that are shaded and just sitting there taking energy without earning it. And once your plant has set a good number of fruit trusses up top, you can pinch out the very top growing tip. That tells the plant it's done getting taller and to spend everything on ripening what it's got. Fewer mouths to feed, more tomatoes filling out. There's one more thing I do, and it feels wrong the first time, but pay attention to this next detail because it explains a lot about how tomatoes think. A little bit of stress pushes a tomato plant to make fruit. In nature, a plant that's a little bit stressed thinks its time might be running short, so it hurries up and reproduces to make seeds before it's too late. You can use that. Once the plant is established and flowering, ease off the water just slightly. Not to the point of wilting and suffering, just let the top of the soil dry out a touch between waterings instead of keeping it soggy all the time. Combine that gentle easing off with your switch to potassium feeding right when those first flowers appear, and you're hitting the plant with every signal it needs. Stop growing, start fruiting. Time to make tomatoes. Let me save you from the mistakes I made because they're the reason plants stay leafy. The biggest one is overfeeding out of worry. A struggling plant looks like it needs more food, so you give it more, and if that food is nitrogen, you dig the hole deeper. Second mistake is timing. Loading up on a bloom feed before the plant is even flowering does nothing. Wait for those flowers, then switch. Third mistake is spraying feed on the leaves and expecting the fruit to respond. Feed the soil at the base where the roots can actually use it. Get those three right, and you're most of the way there. So let's put the whole thing together because once you see how it fits, it's simple. Your leafy, fruitless plant is stuck in growth mode because it's been swimming in nitrogen. You flip it by cutting the nitrogen off and giving it that one drop of concentrated potassium-rich feed, the liquid kelp or your homemade comfrey brew, poured at the base once a week from first flower onward. You back it up by pinching the suckers and lower leaves so energy goes to the fruit, and you ease off the water just a touch to give the plant that little nudge to reproduce. Do that, and within a week or two, you'll watch those flowers stop dropping and start holding. Little green tomatoes appear behind them, then clusters, then a plant that's actually heavy with fruit instead of just heavy with leaves. Remember that big, beautiful, empty plant we started with, all leaves and no tomatoes? This is how it becomes the opposite. Same plant, same patch of dirt, just fed the right signal at the right time. If you want the full system behind this, the feeding, the pruning, the soil work, and the schedule that keeps a small garden producing all season long, that's everything inside the 30-day maximum yield protocol. 115 pages, $17, and it pays for itself the first time your beds outproduce what you spent on it. We're right in the window where these changes still matter for this year's crop, so don't wait until the season's behind you. Scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description and go grow yourself more tomatoes than you know what to do with. I'll see you out in the garden.